very cold February evening in 2001. I was on the balcony area in front of the crew offices in what's now Mafre Stadium. And as I'm leaning on the fence watching the USA-Mexico World Cup qualifier, a very friendly, familiar face leaned up next to me and said, "Isn't this amazing? So amazing." Stadium with probably 25-some thousand people just filling the stadium to the brim. That was not the first time I was privileged to talk to Lamar Hunt. Wasn't the last, but he was that kind of owner, operator, investor. I'm really not sure the terms of owner anymore. My family and I have had a long relationship with the crew going back to 1996, attending many practices, both OSU and OBETS. My daughter had a Brad Friedel goalie glove, which apparently she might not still have. Apparently they rot over time. They do smell. My sons and friends were on ESPN wishing Carlos Valderrama a happy birthday. The same son was on the media guide, having been photographed in 2009, high-fiving Frankie Hayduck with a supporter shield. You all know I could keep going on and on here. Today I sit here with Dr. Pete Edwards, one of the new operator investors, correct term? Sure. Of the Columbus Crew SC. Dr. Pete Edwards is a board-certified orthopedic surgeon with a fellowship-trained specialty in sports medicine. Now, Mike Schittinger always tells me to expand on the biographies that we get, so I thought I'd reach out to your brothers, Jeff and Michael, for input. And what I got back, was summarized pretty easily, which is, Pete Edwards is blessed to have the most wonderful brothers in all of Central Ohio. Jeff and Mike are leaders of industry, pillars of the community, and make Pete shine brighter just by being related to them. So I'm going to go back to what I was sent. A Columbus native, Dr. Edwards received numerous academic honors attending medical school at The Ohio State University. He completed fellowship training in sports medicine, arthroscopic knee surgery, as well as foot and ankle surgery. Dr. Edwards has more than 20 years of experience in treating elite athletes such as Olympic wrestlers, NFL players, NASCAR team members, the U.S. men's and women's national soccer teams, and countless collegiate athletes. If you've been in Ortho One's physical therapy room, you can find their uniforms and notes of gratitude. He has served as team physician for the Columbus Crew since their inception in 1996 until stepping down recently for his present role of the new Columbus Crew ownership group. Through all these experiences, he has gained valuable knowledge that benefits his patients, who are both athletes and non-athletes, and people like me who believe they are still athletes. He strives to return his patients safely to competition at the highest level while maximizing their quality of life after sport. Dr. Edwards has been published in numerous scientific publications and remains active in research to contribute to advancing treatment options in orthopedic surgery. His practice has an emphasis on arthroscopic surgery of the knee, sports medicine, and sports injuries of the lower extremity. In his spare time, which I don't think is a lot, he enjoys fishing, skiing, traveling with his wife and his 4 children. And I think maybe we just start with, do you have some opening comments you'd like to make?
Well, thanks for having me, guys. It's an honor to come sit before the group that my dad and uncles and cousins have been involved with, and have the view of downtown, which is not too dissimilar from where what we'll be able to see from our new stadium, which is just a bit to the north and east of here. The design is thank you. The design is such that we'll be directing the view towards, pass you that for now, towards downtown, so we really think it's going to be a great spot. And we're just thrilled that the city, the Save the Crew group, Morgan, thank you for being here and for all that you've done from the city, the county, and the state, the community at large, all sharing our voice that professional sports teams don't belong to any one person, they belong to the community. And there's so many benefits for the community for having a team here both in terms of entertainment, but also in terms of relationships and economics, that we're thrilled that everyone could come together to save this team. And it's an honor to be part of the ownership group. We feel like we're stewards of the team, and we're just kind of shepherding a community asset. So thank you very much for having me.
Dr. Edwards asked me to, I prepared a large number of questions to get us through our time here, and then he just a few minutes ago says, hey, why don't we talk about that, the four-way test? And let's see if we can tie our conversation into that. So I have no pressure.
He sent me all the questions, and I was like, why did you do questions? Let's just do this.
So in tying this into our Rotary experience, our Rotary lives, number one, is it the truth? Maybe the hardest question for me to kind of parlay into a Save the Crew question, but there have been a lot of very emotional things that have gone on, and a lot of questions about prior ownership, which was not something I intend for us to dwell on, but about, is it the truth?
So I think the truth is that sports are good for society. Not only are they good for your health to be active, but they're also good for all the lessons that they teach. It's about teamwork, and the truth is that this team wouldn't be here if it wasn't for teamwork. They're about shared experiences and family, and about community. So the truth is that Columbus is a better place to have professional sports and events here, and that we really hope that that people believe that, and that the truth from the community is that we're all going to do a good thing, and we're going to be proud of keeping the team here.
And then I think under panic, I go, I'm correct because I don't want to be wrong. Is it fair to all concerned? I received many questions back from fellow Rotarians that did kind of dwell into the area of public versus private money, investment made by the community in that leverage or offers the opportunity to leverage the private investment that you, the Haslams, and the others are making. Thank you. I did join Rotary at a time where we did not ask these questions to the new Rotarians. It was not wrote into my head. But would you please touch on the kind of public-private and that question then of, is it fair for everybody?
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that I thought when I was reading the four questions, that I thought, what a great topic to speak to in front of a largely charitable audience. And that is something that we've really discussed at great length, and what is the role of public-private partnership at lots of levels. So I think to start with, I think that at the heart of what we talk about and what we want to do is fairness. We want what we're doing to be fair to the city, the county, and the state, and we can't thank them enough for really explaining to us what they think is fair, because Megan Kilgore is the smartest person in the room, pretty much in every room, and we look to her to say, what is fair, what makes sense for the city, what is a way to balance a public-private partnership that benefits the community, not just economically, but also socially and charitably. So shout out to Megan for helping frame that conversation with the city and the county and the state about what we could collectively do to make it fair. So that's a big thing. But also I think the principle of fairness is that, I mentioned it earlier, is that to whom a lot is given, a lot should be expected. And that's really a guiding principle for the Haslams, and we're so blessed to have them as partners, because really when we sat down in September, this came together really, really quickly. Alex Fisher often says sometimes you fall in love really hard. And between September 21st, when I first officially met Dee and Jimmy, and when Morgan and his group all went to bars on October 12th, right? And said something was going to be announced, and I got frantic phone calls saying, "What are we announcing?" And they weren't from just anybody. It was Jimmy and Dee saying, "We aren't announcing anything. What are we announcing?" So the fact that the Haslams have a charitable core and they really understand fairness and they really understand community service and what can come from a public-private partnership, I think is really important. Classic example, and I didn't want to forget this, so right before I sat down, I pulled this bracelet so I could see it. So last weekend at the game, I was over in front of the fan section, and 6 little girls were in the front row of the Nordac section, and they all said, oh, stop. And their parents said they have something they wanted to tell us. And what they wanted to say is that these collection of 5 or 6 little girls, their Twitter name, I think, is the Beehive, if you all are on Twitter. These little girls had raised $3,000 in 1 week to support Jonathan Mensah's charity that helps people in Ghana. And they made these little bracelets, of which they gave me one, and they sold some things, but they raised $3,000. And I think that's just a wonderful example of how fans can come together in the spirit of charity and fellowship and do something great. So these little girls are great role models for all of us, and I think that as part of the ownership group, we can learn a lot from the 12-year-olds that in a week can do some pretty cool things.
In August, the crew plays Cincinnati. During that match, we Rotarians will be able to volunteer to sell 50-50 raffle tickets, which will support the Columbus Crew Foundation, but it will also support us. And we will be able to participate. Am I allowed to say hell is real? And anyway, that will be I will guarantee a sold-out match for us to be able to participate in that. Can you tell us a little bit about what the foundation supports?
Yeah, the foundation is, so I'm not supposed to say too much about the foundation because we're still really pushing the organizational side, but we're super excited about the foundation. We've got the underpinnings of a great board and really taking it to the next level. The Columbus Blue Jackets Foundation is very successful. The Columbus Crew Foundation has largely been invisible until this year. Not to diminish what they've done in the past, but they've not been a super active organization, and we really want to take it to next level. We've already done one of what will be many of our signature projects, which is creating a soccer pitch at Eakin Elementary up on the hilltop. And what we're trying to do is give kids a healthy outlet, let kids be engaged in their community in a free use facility, and provide them an opportunity to be engaged. So our foundation is something that we're super excited about. We really look forward to creating some really broad-reaching, community-based service projects, and we're super excited to get started. More probably will come of that publicly later in the summer, maybe even early fall. But one thing I will tease you all with is my brother-in-law, probably Nick Cavaleris, is probably going to be the foundation chair, and he came up with a great idea that our fundraiser, which we've never had before, will be a evening party, and he wants to call it the soccer ball. So it should be a fun event, and we've gotten lots of support already from around the community, but we're very excited about taking the foundation to a much, much higher level.
Well, thank you. And then, will it build goodwill and better friendships? Now, as a season ticket holder, the name Garber doesn't really resonate very comfortably in my my psyche. But at the Metropolitan Club presentation particularly, you gave the group of you gave direct thanks to him for being instrumental in getting the crew saved and recognized him as a valuable partner. My opinion of statements made over history really don't matter anymore because we're sitting here today. But can you kind of say something about the relationship between Crew SC and MLS, and hopefully between MLS and Columbus.
Yeah, that was that was a real important relationship for us to develop when the Save the Crew community had raised such a collective voice about the city of Columbus, because in New York City they really didn't think Columbus was a good place. They'd gotten some bad information from some of the business metrics that they were seeing, but more importantly from owners that maybe weren't from here, that didn't have a sense of what Columbus really was. So in the beginning of our discussion with MLS, we probably spent 2 months trying to convince them that Columbus was a good place and a good market, and quite to the contrary of what they'd heard, that the team could be successful here. And it wasn't until we had an outside potential ownership partner who was a private equity company that came in and said they'd done the analysis of the market, they'd studied what Columbus could be in terms of a soccer market, and that they wanted to be involved in the ownership group. So we had an external, we kind of had a horse in the race. So I'm not sure that the league was quite as anxious to believe us as when someone from a New York City private equity group came in and said, this can really win here. That helped start the dialogue of, hey, maybe what the league thought about us in Columbus wasn't quite true. And I think in his heart, Don Garber was stuck between a rock and a hard place. He serves the owners, he serves the soccer community, but at the end of the day, the previous owner wanted the team to move, and Don was somewhat kind of hamstrung in terms of what he could really do. And what we were able to do through this process was to give him time through our Save the Crew movement, honestly, through the lawsuit, things that caused enough pause for Don to begin to understand that Columbus is a great place and the community could be a real success story for him. And once that became apparent, even though we couldn't talk about it publicly and people like Jim didn't understand that he was trying to help us solve the problem, he really was. And so we definitely owe him a thank you for his patience and his ability to help us, give us the time to work through the process, which was a complicated thing to serve the owners group, the previous owner, the city, to do all the things that had to be done. He gave us the time to help us work through it, as well as the forum to get it done. So, you know, he's definitely not an enemy. He might not have been the best friend in the beginning, but he definitely, at the end of the day, was an integral part of the process that let us keep the team. And without his willingness to step up and say this will work, it wouldn't have. So yeah, we still owe him a big thank you.
There is a fan base looking very much forward to this fall, because the Crew is in first place in the East right now, and to hoist the cup as presented to Crew SC by Don Garber would be a lot of fun. So
would have been more fun last year. But no, we're playing well. We have a veteran team. Without saying too much, we're trying to make the team better. We're going to be a little different as we look to the open market for players. So we're excited about building a true championship team. Our pillars of the organization are win consistently, have a great fan experience, and give back to the community. And that's the way our organization is going to be run. To win consistently now, you know, we have to be a little bit more active in the transfer market. Every team is getting better. The days of a core group of guys like when Maisenoff and McBride and Yeagley and that crew were here for 8 years in a row, and I went to their weddings and their children's christenings and all the things that come with having a core group of guys here, those days are changing a bit as we've entered the world market in soccer. So the acquisition windows are something that we haven't taken advantage of in the past, and we're looking to be a little bit more active to make our team better, as is every other team in MLS. But so far, so good. We're playing well. We have a big game in Montreal this weekend where we can really begin to make a true statement that we're for real. It's a very long season. It's great to be in first now, but we want to be in first at the end. So 3 points this weekend in Montreal would be a big statement, then come home to play Portland, and we can actually start to position ourselves in a really, really good spot for later in the year.
You mentioned a little while ago the Art Modell Law being, the lawsuit by the state of Ohio. You inferred already it was very impactful. Let me phrase that back into a question. How impactful?
Well, I think it helped get us have a little bit more time, we described the process as not running the pool table once, but having to run it twice. The odds when this process started were basically zero. And, after a month, Alex and I looked at each other and we said, is it worth continuing? And we said, yes, until it's over, it's not over. So every single thing that played into this process, the fact that the Austin community didn't embrace the move with open arms caused a short pause. The fact that there was a lawsuit caused a pause. The fact that Save the Crew was awakening the soccer world in Italy. My brother opened a paper in Italy, and there was an article about Save the Crew. There was an event when someone came and spoke early in the year, and they had pictures of people holding a Save the Crew banner, scarf in Red Square in Moscow. So all the things that happened, even our failures, the fact that we had a private equity group that was talking to us about partnering with us that ultimately didn't come to fruition was a very important failure on our behalf, because the league heard a different story from someone that really understood the economics of the city and the market and said it was different than what the league had heard before. So all the little parts had to fall perfectly because the odds were so much against us to start with. That's why this has never happened before, right? That's why the story of the Crew being saved will be part of the narrative of this city for forever. And the process of Save the Crew is being studied now in business schools. How does a grassroots organization built by a bunch of guys that have regular jobs that meet in a bar on Monday nights and Saturday mornings end up garnering national and international awareness? All the things had to come together, and I think that the lawsuit was part of it. Save the Crew was part of it. The government in the Columbus Way and Alex Fisher were a huge part of it. Megan Kilgore's skill and financial expertise was a huge part of it. So all those things play into getting really, really lucky to have pulled off something as a community that we probably couldn't have hoped for in the beginning.
And your thoughts, if all 50 states enacted an Art Modell Law, did you have discussions about what that would mean to being the franchise owner investor in any major league sport?
I don't think that, we've had calls from other people saying, teach us how you did it. And the answer is that the Art Modell Law isn't it. It's Columbus. It's the magic that happened in this community with these people, with the Columbus Way, and the government officials and the history of public-private partnerships in this city. That's more important than the Art Modell Law, because no one part of this was more important than any other part. So, do other communities want to enact it? Sure, they can enact similar laws, but at the end of the day, that was only a small part of it, and the people in this community were what made it work, not a lawyer or a city attorney or anything like that. It all had to come together. So good luck to other cities trying to do it. They're not Columbus, and the Columbus Way is real, and not every city could pull it off. Okay, so I'm going to use, we've still got time, but will it be beneficial to all concerned? So I'm going to stretch and say, Ken Shinaki stood in here in the last year or two and told us how much he had pushed to have the Clippers move downtown and how the impact is far bigger than any expectations.
Some people will say we have an adequate stadium at the fairgrounds, why build a new one? And a lot of us are very, very excited about the opportunity of a new stadium downtown. Can you touch on that? That we have a stadium, and you've said it, you wanted to be downtown.
Yeah, I think two things. I think part of the really wonderful process that we went through was the community said, we don't want Moffrey Stadium to be Clipper Stadium next to the freeway that's a skeleton that sits in disrepair. What can we do to create a community benefit from the existing facilities? And the answer was, what a great idea to have it be a community sports park. We're going to have our training facility there. We're going to have our academy fields there. But to create an environment where we can have 6 or 8 outdoor fields for free play and indoor space as well was really important. So that the use of Moffrey was a really, really integral discussion as we came back to the benefit for all in the community. But one of the things that we thought was absolutely essential for us being involved as local owners was that there was a downtown stadium. In a meeting probably January or February of last year that I had with the league, when they expected us to come in and say, we just want to be owners, da-da-da-da, I looked at Mark Abbott, the vice chair of the league, and I said, Mark, we will not go forward with this project unless we have a downtown stadium. And he kind of looked at me like, wait, I thought you were just trying to save the team. I said, no, we have to be successful, and we have to create a venue that is a benefit to the city for soccer, but also other things, and that's our goal. We want to have farmers markets in the plaza area. We want to have movie nights where people can bring chairs. We want to have the best seat in the city for Red, White, and Boom, and it will be. We want to have food trucks in the open plaza. There's discussion of creating, opening the gates, and when the weather's nice, trying to do what Portland does, where there's a collection. If you've ever been to the food truck area in Portland, there's 50 food trucks that all come together in one location, and people can come down kind of like North Market and just walk through and have lots of choices for where to eat. So from a soccer standpoint, you need a venue that can be walkable, that has entertainment in and around it. It's been proven in the MLS that that's a game changer, like it was in Kansas City. They went from a struggling franchise to one of the best franchises in the league. So that's important for us, but from a community benefit, we also think there's a lot more to it, both at Moffrey and at the new stadium downtown.
Well, thank you very much for that. Some general questions, and if we have time, we'll open up to the floor. I have 2 questions that my daughter proposed. Where do you see professional soccer in the U.S. in the next 10, 15 years? Or even 5?
Let's go 7. Because 7 is when the World Cup comes in 2026. And there's going to be, I think, a true awakening of not only the world to U.S. soccer, but soccer within the United States, with the excitement that comes here. The birth of MLS was the World Cup in the mid-90s, and MLS rode the wave, so to speak, of enthusiasm for soccer in the mid-90s and was formed 2 years after the World Cup. We really think that there's a tremendous number of soccer fans in the United States, and it's only going to accelerate through 2025 when we have the Confederations Cup, which is an 8-team. There's talk of maybe changing the number, but the best 8 teams in the world plus the host countries have a tournament the year before the World Cup. It's kind of like World Cup practice before the official event. So in 2025 and 2026, the soccer world will be focusing on the United States, and we feel like that's going to be a true inflection point for soccer here. All the kids that are playing now are going to be ticket-buying fans and TV-watching fans as they age. So it's taken a bit longer than I think MLS would like to admit, in that we thought that process might have happened in the first 20 years, and it's probably it's happened now, but it's going to accelerate over the next 10 years to when there's so many past players that soccer really is a sport that they care about and have grown up around. So we're super excited about soccer the next 10 years, and I think that everyone will find that the communities will be too as we get closer to the World Cup.
In this room, we have Crew supporters, we have fans, we have season ticket holders, and we have people who are fairly ambivalent probably about soccer. That aside, what is the one thing the average non-soccer fan should know about Crew SC?
Well, I think it's really about the community. Soccer is a unique sport. It's inclusive. It's fan-friendly. And the message is that it's kind of a community event. And it starts with the players. I've been taking care of the players for 24 years until about 3 months ago. And I would tell you they're the nicest group of guys, the most unpretentious, proud to be able to do what they do and make a living from it. And there's no, I've taken care of lots of NBA players, lots of NFL players, and that sense of we need to be community members is stronger in soccer than in anything else. And that permeates through the fan base. And once you meet the players and you spend a little time with them, you'll be proud. My wife is not a huge soccer fan, despite supporting me for 25 years and having lots of Saturday nights when she would bring 3 young children to the games because I was working, which is, if you think about that, that's a lot of work in the stands. So she is more engaged than ever because she's gotten to know the players more. And the fact that they're good guys and they're community facing has made her happy to be part of it. So that's the nicest thing is these guys aren't professional athletes. They're just guys that happen to play professional soccer, and they care about what they do and what they say and how they're viewed and what the community's like. So and the other thing I would say to the non-fan is it's a really fun place to come hang out on a summer night when it's hot out and to feel the energy in the stadium. It's different in soccer than other sports. So if you've never been, come stand. At the end of last game, you know, we didn't have a great crowd. It was Final Four night, but there was a time when the supporter section started singing the songs, and they put the songs up on the big screen, and fans all stood up and started singing together. So it is a community event, and you don't have to be a soccer fan to enjoy coming to a game. So if you've never been, give it a try. You might be surprised.
And with that, I think we're out of time, yes? So thank you, Dr. Edwards, for your time. I'm going to say one very brief thing is we are looking to find interest in having a group outing. We can get group tickets together. We could get a link for a discount and do something like that. Email me. I'll get back to everybody in the very near future about when it might be able to pull it off when we're not likely to run into a monsoon.
Sounds good.
That was the rainiest day in the history of March 30th in Ohio, if you saw the pictures. It was truly unbelievable. And to have 5,000 people be in the stands at the end of the game was a testament to that I don't even know what, but that strength of character to stay through the entire thing. And somebody asked me the other day, and I said, I think they wanted to say they stayed to the end just because they wanted to be able to, in the history of our stadium, say they stayed to the end of the game the day that it rained 2 inches during the game. So,
one more applause for our speaker and our moderator. Dr. Pete Edwards, thank you so much for what you've done for the Crew and for the community and for speaking today. Particularly like that to use the 4-way test as your format. And we'll have Jim work on his memorization of that hereafter. But I did some my response program topic speaker card, and so I just wanted to share a little bit. In addition to using the 4-way tester format, thank you for fabulous remarks on the mission of the Crew on the field and off the field. Thank you for your personal role in saving the Crew. I scored you a 5.0. That's the highest score for both topic and speaking. Now on to the moderator.
And we're out of time.
a great personal introduction. I particularly like the brother's comment about how good a person he is in the remarks. But most of all, and I want a ruckus round of applause. Thank you for not wearing a kilt, Jim. Okay, with that, the meeting is adjourned.